Hi guys, welcome back. What started as a niche fantasy miniature company is now included in the FTSE 100 with a performance of over 100% in the last 2 years alone. Games Workshop, the maker of Warhammer 40k, has outperformed the market by miles. I'd even say that they are the Ferrari of toy companies because of their insane margins and record profits. And with an Amazon Prime series on the horizon, the next chapter could be even bigger. So today we'll dive into the details of Games Workshop to see if they are still a good investment or if they are priced for perfection. And if you're new here, my name is Florian and I'm a physics engineer from Germany with a passion for data-driven investing. That is also why I built my own quant rating system to evaluate stocks objectively. Welcome to the channel and thank you for joining me today. So over the last year, Games Workshop could deliver a great performance of over 50%. With this, they could easily outperform the S&P 500 and the MSCI World by quite a margin. And the picture is the same when we zoom out to 10 years. During this time, they could deliver well over 5,000%, while the S&P 500 produced close to 300 and the MSCI World around 220%. So they recently had a great performance and could easily outperform the broader market. This also led to the company being included in the FTSE 100 index almost exactly 1 year ago, which also didn't hurt the performance, as this means that the company is now included in all ETFs that replicate that index, and thus the stock has a higher visibility with investors and is traded more often. But most importantly, they could also successfully execute their global expansion strategy by opening 30 new stores during the year, and the new release of an updated version of their second biggest IP, Age of Sigmar, last year has also helped them to push their revenues and profits to record levels. So the company has a lot going for them. I first covered them on this channel almost exactly 2 years ago, and since then, the stock is up by well over 100%. And I also had them on my watch list since then, but never bought the stock. So this also unfortunately makes it one of my biggest missed chances in the last 2 years. But the question now is, can the company continue this growth streak or have the best days already passed? And to determine this, we first need to understand what the company is exactly doing to understand the chances, but also the risks for them. Games Workshop is the world's largest designer, manufacturer and seller of fantasy miniature figures and associated products. They are mostly known for the flagship franchise, the Warhammer and the Warhammer 40k universes. So they have a very vertically integrated business where they even operate their own designated stores for the games, which, if you don't know these games or stores, also double as rooms to play them and to meet other like-minded people. Besides this core business, they also license their IPs for an increasing number of video games, novels, and recently even a high-profile deal with Amazon for an upcoming Warhammer 40k series on Amazon Prime. These IPs are also a major moat for them, because all of their IPs are very iconic and have been around for decades with an established fan base, so they are not easy to replicate. Think of this as other huge IPs like Disney, Star Wars, or even Marvel Comics with all their iconic characters and stories. Only that you can build, paint and play with the characters besides just collecting them. And this is arguably also the biggest advantage. Because Warhammer is, so to say, a multi-stage hobby. Customers often invest hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars into creating whole armies with these figurines, paint them with Games Workshop proprietary paints, and read the game rules in the rulebooks provided by the company. So they not only invest a significant amount of money into their hobby, but also time and emotional energy, which makes it very hard to give up on this. And so far this year, this went so well that they just increased their profit and margin estimation for the running business year. Because even though only half of their fiscal year was over in November, their profit was already 60% of the original full year estimate. And instead of a revenue decline of 2%, which they initially expected, their revenue up to now is even up by 7% compared to the first half of last year. And this is not because last year went poorly for them, no. Last year was their best year so far, and up to now, everything points into the direction that this year will be even better. The one part where this will be hard to do though is their revenue from licensing. This only makes up a bit under 10% of their total revenue, but is still a major part of their business because it allows them to broaden the presence and brand exposure of their franchises. At the moment, the majority of this licensing revenue is generated by video game sales, which are harder to predict. But still, the company already mentioned in the last annual report that this big jump in licensing revenue was exceptional and will be hard to match this year. So I'd assume that this will come down at least a little bit in the short term. But here comes the twist. Because Games Workshop has been in discussion with Amazon and the actor Henry Cavill for the last 2 years now to bring a Warhammer 40k series to life on Amazon Prime. This is so exciting because Henry Cavill is very well liked in the gaming community because he's a passionate Warhammer player himself. And such a series has the potential to bring this, despite its success, still niche franchise to a more mainstream audience and further push its popularity. This could not only have a long-term effect on the tabletop game itself, but also on the licensing revenue. But as I said, this deal has been in the making for over 2 years already, and it will also still take quite a while until it's finalized. So this could rather be a long-term driver than a short-term catalyst. But as a nice side effect, this would further boost their already pretty amazing margins of the company because their licensing revenue comes with very low costs for the company itself. And even without this deal, the company has quite some attractive tailwinds. Because the general playing card and board game market is growing with a CAGR of over 8% until 2030. This is already not bad. But the miniature wargame segment especially is expected to be one of the biggest growth drivers for the whole industry. And Warhammer 40k gets the honorable mention as the most popular and commercially successful game in this segment. And Warhammer Age of Sigmar is also not far behind. So Games Workshop is in a prime position to benefit from this growing market, and I think that the chances are not bad that the company can even beat this general market growth. But the 3D printing market is also growing, and third-party models are available for Games Workshop figures. So people with a 3D printer could print these models at home. And because this market is also still growing, it could be a real risk for the company. But this prediction has been around for years and up to now has not materialized. When I researched this topic on fan pages on Reddit and so, I found that many players seem to prefer the models of Game Workshop for the higher quality, better details and coherent design. If you want to replicate this level of detail and quality with a 3D printer, the printer and the print itself would also come in pretty costly and even with a high initial costs for the printer. So this risk seems to be lower than initially expected. So now that we understand the business and the market trends, let's dive into the fundamentals and rate them with my quant rating system. First, let's look at the income metrics in my TradingView dashboard to see how the company is growing. And here we see every sign of a great compounder. All metrics without exception are rising nicely and steadily since 2017. There was only 1 year, namely 2022, where the free cash flow declined a little bit. This was related to a boom in 2020 and 2021 where the games were constantly sold out. And in order to protect their supply chain, they decided to increase their inventory levels of raw material, which led to a lower cash flow. But I would say that this is rather a luxury problem and no real concern. Overall, the growth score of the company in my rating system is very good. They get high scores of 9 to 10 across all metrics except the forecast. This is because the growth expectation for the next 3 years and especially for next year from Wall Street is much lower compared to the past results. But we'll come to the details when I show you the analyst forecast for them. First, let's see how healthy the company is financially. Unfortunately, TradingView does not have the information about their debt levels. But we can find them in fiscal.ai. And here we see that the net debt to EBITDA is even negative at the moment. This means that the company has more cash and cash equivalents than debt. And this also leads to a very good interest coverage ratio of almost 190 times and is a very good first indication of how much cash the business really produces. Unfortunately though, they are not buying back a lot of shares. But neither are they issuing many, so their share count is largely stable. The company could also improve most of their margins steadily over the years. Their gross margin is largely stable, but EBITDA, free cash flow, and ROIC have constantly been going up. This leaves the current margins not only well above their own 5-year history, but also way higher than other discretionary hobby good providers like Hasbro or Mattel. But not only that, they are also way above other intellectual property powerhouses like Disney, for example, that I mentioned earlier already. In fact, purely from a margin point of view, Games Workshop could rather be compared to high luxury stocks like Hermes or Ferrari than to other toy companies. So you could say that they are the Ferrari of tabletop gaming, which is funnily also true for the price of the figurines. In my ranking, this strong balance sheet as well as their high margins also get them a pretty good score in financial health and profitability. Same as in growth, they are on the upper end of my ranking here with many 10 scores. Overall, this leaves them with 9.4 and 9.6 here. And the company is also paying a dividend with a decent yield of 2.77%. They could also grow it by almost 30% annually for the last 5 years. But they are not automatically increasing this dividend as many other companies do, but rather keep it a bit flexible. As they state in the dividend policy, they will only pay dividends out of cash which is truly surplus to their business. And as they put it in an older company report, their definition of truly surplus means all the money that is left over after they opened all stores they can, recruited all new store managers and operators they can, bought all the material they need, paid for all the shop fits, built and repaired the buildings, paid debt, and kept enough to oil the wheels. So for investors that are looking for a steady and ever-rising dividend, this might not be the best option. But when we plot the dividend directly against their free cash flow, we can also see that both are pretty much going at the same pace and increase with the same speed. But that also means that if the company has a weaker year, they will not keep the dividend, but will also adjust them to the downside. This is not bad per se, because it also allows the company to have a higher payout ratio than otherwise, but it should be taken into account. In the quality score, they only get a bad score in the cyclicality because the larger consumer discretionary sector is a pretty cyclical one. But they do have a great moat, nice secular trends, and are returning a lot of cash to their shareholders while also having a very high ROIC. Overall, they get 7.5 and 7.9 here. But this great and stable performance has not gone unnoticed, especially since they got added to the FTSE 100. While their momentum is still pretty good and they are trading pretty close to their 52-week high, the valuation looks far less good and is currently also pretty high, especially for a toy company. Only the PEG ratio with 1.1 is still pretty decent. But the remaining metrics are very high even when compared to their own history. At the moment, they are around 20% above their own 5-year averages and close to the highest levels during this time. The only time where they were even more expensive was during the pandemic. But then the stock did collapse by over 50% after this in 2022, so there is that. Overall, they still get a good 5-year score of 7.4 and a 10-year score of 7.7 in my ranking system. This also puts them pretty high amongst all companies I recently rated and gives them a similar score of what many big techs are getting. But this high valuation does have an impact on the predicted returns of the stock. The 1-year price target from Wall Street is currently even below the stock price today. This comes together with a slower growth expectation than in the last few years, but as I showed you in the beginning, At least for 2025, it looks like this forecast was a bit too pessimistic and the company can probably beat it. So, last but not least, let's also directly compare them to some peers. And if you like the video so far, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to not miss the next one. As a small channel, this also really helps me out a lot, so thank you very much. For the comparison today, I choose Mattel and Hasbro as toy manufacturers, Walt Disney as huge IP owner, and Ferrari and Hermes as high luxury brands. Games Workshop had indeed the best performance last year, but followed close by Hasbro. In the last 10 years, the picture is similar but becomes even more pronounced. Over this time frame, Games Workshop could leave the other companies in the dust with over 6 times the performance of the second best, which was Ferrari. The highest dividend yield has Hasbro, but Games Workshop is on second place here. And over the last 5 years, Games Workshop did increase this dividend the quickest, followed by Ferrari. In terms of valuation, Hermes actually has the highest one, but Games Workshop and Ferrari are also on a similar high level. And all 3 of these companies are way higher valued than our other 2 toy companies and also Disney. So here, Games Workshop is again closer to high luxury stocks than other toy companies. For growth, the picture is not as clear. Here it depends on the metric and the time frame we are looking at. While Games Workshop could grow their revenue the quickest this year, Hermes had the highest over the last 5. But Ferrari could grow their free cash flow the quickest, while Disney is first in EPS and net income growth. But again, the overall numbers of Games Workshop are closer to high luxury than to toys. And the same goes for the profitability. While the gross margin is still not too far apart, in EBITDA, net income and free cash flow, the split widens. Here we see a pretty large difference between Games Workshop, Hermes and Ferrari to the other 3. So to sum it up, I like Games Workshop a lot. They could grow the fundamentals very nice and steadily with double-digit growth rates across the board for the last 10 years, while also keeping their profitability very high. And when I say high, I mean top of the industry here. This comes also from the immense moat that they established with their beloved IPs. And there is still some growth fantasy with the Amazon Prime series with Henry Cavill that is currently in the making. This could push the whole Warhammer 40k franchise and with it the whole company to new levels. They are also successfully expanding into Asia, especially Japan right now, where they established 18 stores by now and are growing with double the speed as in the rest of the world. But with only 18 stores, there is still a lot of growth potential. And that might also be the reason why we saw several insiders actually buying more shares, especially over the last 6 months. So this all sounds great, but for me the biggest drawback is the very high valuation. In the past, the stock also had quite a high volatility, which is not for everyone, but this might change now with the inclusion in the FTSE 100 that might give some stability. And of course, if the Amazon deal doesn't work out or if the series is bad, it could also hurt the company and their franchises. But as always, this is just my opinion. What are your thoughts about the company and are you already invested? I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And guys, if you are interested in an unknown company that currently pays 5.3% dividend and trades so cheaply that its market cap is even below its book value, check out this video right here. And of course, this is no financial advice, so please, before investing, do your own research and only use this video as a starting point for your own analysis. That being said, thank you so much for watching guys and see you in the next video.